It's Ed Radio Australia, and we are very live indeed, terrifyingly so. In fact, Terry's already, well, boom, boom, terrifying. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Just dropped a line that could just throw this show completely off the rails. And let's face it, our shows are normally pretty well off the rails anyway.
They
so
are. They are indeed.
Welcome to the Genius Zone, of course. Fantastic to be here. Lovely to see you.
I'm a bit concerned myself sitting next to you here, Aaron.
Yes, well, we've had a very honest conversation before we came on air, okay? An honest behavioural sort of conversation. So, oh dear, we'll talk about that later.
This is right. It could just come up in the show. You never know your luck in the big city. But you know what? We have got an incredible woman coming onto the show. Okay. So I'm feeling really sorry for you, actually.
Am I outnumbered?
Yeah,
like big time.
you
okay, is that what's going on here?
You are meeting with your. This is a day to be reckoned with for you, Aaron.
Arch nemesis, really? Yeah. Is that where we're going here?
Yep, that's the one.
Now, the lovely lady we have there right now, I can see her on screen. I can see she's smiling. We've got her off stage a little bit. Shall we?
Backstage, yes.
Yeah. Shall we bring her on? Well, I reckon, you do the intro first.
I reckon, firstly, I just warn you, she's another master NLP practitioner.
So I have no chance.
You have no chance.
I'm on my own.
And look, just quietly, this guy could teach it, and he knows it anyways. And he's been actually, kind enough to let me sit in the hot seat every Wednesday.
This is true.
Usually at 3 p.m. So this is a special time, and I do need to just say that. We made
very
that.
Much so.
And I just want to say thank you to you, Aaron, for doing that.
100%, my pleasure.
And, and with no further ado, let's bring her on.
Okay,
Stacey Phoenix.
Hello,
Woo-hoo.
welcome, Stacey.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh.
Great. Now, where are you? And what time is it?
It is 6 a.m. and I'm in New Hampshire, USA.
Okay. We do shows with the US all the time, so we're always playing the game. So as far as time-wise goes, so yeah, thank you very much for getting up early.
Yeah, it's not a problem at all. I'm an early bird. I usually wake up around 5 a.m. So.
Oh, okay. See, to me, 5 a.m. It's still yesterday. I don't understand you people. No. You're weird. You're weird. I'm a night owl. I'm the absolute opposite. No, well, lovely to have you on board and looking forward to the show because, okay, I've had a quick look at the subject matter and how my life is going at the moment. This could get ugly, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, this has got so much potential to go so sideways.
Oh, my goodness. I believe that the stars are lined up for you, right. Aaron Malloy. They are lined up, boy. And so here we go.
All right, let's fire into it.
Yeah, let's go into it. So firstly, Stacey, we are really covering a topic here that's more about, sexual energy, masculine and feminine, and all the things. And yet, you are a master NLP practitioner. You're a confidence coach and all those kinds of things. So tell me about how this topic has become really, interesting, inspirational, and something that you really want to speak about.
This topic is something I've been really passionate about because I feel like there's an imbalance in the masculine and feminine energies of the world. So this is my effort, and along with other friends who are coaches of mine who are pushing the boundaries forward to ensure that we bring balance and fairness amongst men and women, right? So yeah, and the first thing is really, I've been talking about this in my content many times before over the last couple of years, is that men should feel safe in being vulnerable, in crying without being called names, being emasculated, essentially, weak.
Ooh.
It's a true point. Oh, I'm listening. I'm sitting back. Stacey.
The stars are lined
absolutely. I really want to hear what you've got to say because, look, as much as we're having a little joke about it, this is very serious, okay? There are two genders, and I don't care whatever, where you come from. As far as I'm concerned, male, female, that's it. Our energy is different. And our secret and our genius is actually to make our energies work together. The whole idea in my eyes is women and men working together, right? So,
So,
where I
what do
come
you
from.
mean by emasculated, anyways? And can you talk to us about that male and, perhaps how we have overlooked men in that way?
Yeah, I feel like society's standards, men were taught to be strong, not to cry, and hold it together, even in during the toughest times. And I don't feel that that's fair. I feel like it's fair to be human and allow men to be human as well. And it's okay for them to cry and show vulnerability without being called weak or anything along those lines, or being looked at as being weak in other terms. I don't know if I can say on here.
You say whatever you like. Feel
Like weak, sissy, or all those types of names. I don't feel that that's fair for um, women to treat men that way.
Well, okay, I'm going to go. I've literally about an hour ago got off a conversation with someone about domestic violence, okay,
Yeah.
and the absolute epidemic of male domestic violence which we have right now. Not the way that people would want to talk about the other side of things, of men actually being attacked and nothing being done about it. And I can sit here with 100% honesty as somebody who has been the recipient of domestic violence, actually being
Mhm.
attacked. And when I went to police, now I look at the difference between men and women. When I went to the police as somebody who was being physically and emotionally and financially and attacked in every possible way, do you know what the police said to me? They called
No.
me a poofter.
Wow.
They are poofter.
Now, isn't that like these days against the law?
Oh yeah, no, no, no,
Isn't
no.
that prejudice?
What the police and what the
Right.
judiciary say and what the reality in the world is very, very different. So you'll find that the legal system is, it's an absolute rort. Yeah.
Yep. This is a topic that, is Aaron's specialty. It's where I guess, where his pain and passion comes from.
Yeah.
So he's gone through so much. And, to say that you have endured, if we can say this, you've endured quite a lot to the point that, in some ways you're quite disgruntled.
Oh, I'm beyond disgruntled, and today I'm
I'm
particularly
just
angry.
being,
Yeah,
subtle.
I appreciate that. But today I'm actually quite angry because some stuff's
Mhm.
gone down today, and I just think that this imbalance is out of control. And
Right.
I'm going to railroad the show a little bit here, and I'd like to sort of know your opinions. I believe very strongly that the first wave of feminism was absolutely necessary. Okay, second
Mhm.
one was quite necessary. The third and fourth wave of feminism has been unbelievably destructive to society. It went from the point of now that women want an advantage in life in everything they do, and the fourth wave is very much the destruction of men. And this lack of balance between masculinity and femininity is absolutely destroying the world. Yeah.
But what
Mhm.
about, and I believe that Stacey will be able to really open this up, and I
Mm.
know Aaron's going to hit you up with some questions in a moment
Yeah.
that we've got here. However, I hear what Aaron's saying here, and I believe that your passion, Stacey, is more about how we all have that masculine and feminine within us,
Mhm.
and and how leading to being too much one way can lead us to imbalance.
Mm.
And when we are in our masculine, so for example a female,
Sure.
the more that we're pushing, hustling, striving,
Yep.
that's kind of masculine energy,
Okay.
where when we kind of just sort of like have that surrender type of,
Mm.
that is more the masculine or the feminine, should I say.
Sure.
But can you open that up, Stacey, about, how this is impacting both men and women? Because I know we've got some really good questions around this as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So one way it impacts women, and I'll utilize myself an example for this, for something I went through when I was leaning very much towards in my masculine energy before. I was attracting men who were more feminine.
Okay.
And therefore, I was in relationships with men where I was doing more of the work, where it's meant to be the opposite. And that leads to what you were saying about the imbalance, right, of the feminine movement, where is putting women into more masculine energies where they're not attracting the right type of partners that they actually really want.
That's
And
right.
now when I lean more, I created balance within myself and lean more towards my feminine energy. I have attracted a very great partner who is very
Great.
much in a healthy masculine energy, and therefore allows me to be in my feminine when it calls for it.
But don't you reckon too that it
Mhm.
can be brought on? Like I've found it in my relationships where, I mean, I believe, I'm a female, so I'll be the female. The husband is the male, so he's the male. But
Mhm.
every so often, I don't know what's happened. I have found myself moving into that masculine energy.
Yeah.
And you're right, even if it wasn't that way to begin with, the
Mhm.
more that I'm moving into it,
Mm-hmm.
the more he's moving into feminine energy.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then that is exasperating things, making me more masculine, and then as a result, making him more feminine. And it's a bit of yin and yang, isn't it?
Yes. In
It's really yin and yang, taking place and kind of reflecting back to each other, what's missing and what's there. And yeah, but hey, we've got some really good questions
We
up
do.
here.
I'm going to bring
Are
those up
you
actually.
game to ask
Let's
them,
jump into them.
Aaron?
So there we go. Now, the first question we've got here is from Connie in Perth. Nice and local. There we go. If sex is an energy exchange, does it affect me to be carrying other people's energy of who I have been intimate with?
Yes, it
Ooh,
does.
this is a big question.
Okay, you've jumped straight to the answer. Look at that.
Yes, it does. It creates energetic blockages within you. If you were with a partner who had, let's say, for instance, a type of fear, right? A fear of judgment, for example, just throwing it
Okay.
out there. You can pick up on that through sex with exchanging energies with that person. And all of a sudden, you can have that fear and you don't know where it came from. And that could be from where it came from. That's just a minor, very simple example because when you're with somebody intimately like that, and sex is a spiritual act.
It's
So,
supposed to be, yeah.
Mm,
right.
mm.
So when you're exchanging those type of energies, you're exchanging your energy with them. So they're picking up on your energies and all the partners you were with before and vice versa.
Any tips of leaving that last partner behind? I mean, or the one before that, or the one before that. I mean,
And all
you
the ones that they were with.
know, exactly right. I mean, it's starting to look like a bit of a party that there's a bowl of keys involved, right?
Yeah, yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
lot going on.
Mm.
So, is there any tips that you can think of that might help in that department?
Well, from the conversational standpoint, I always advise, friends, family, clients to talk to that person about how many partners they've had before and making sure that um, what kind of gauge of what type of relationships they were in before, and then a way to disconnect those sexual past, sexual history is through Reiki, um, which is energy work in itself, right? So you
Okay.
can cut that off and remove all of the energy that you've had with that partner before and for them as well if you choose to.
Yeah, and also there's that soul tie as well. So they say
Mhm.
that everyone you've been with,
Hmm.
you've got a soul contract, like a soul tie.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
and if you continue to kind of carry that
Hmm.
in the Christian world,
Sure.
what they do is, I can remember my auntie being really big on this,
Okay.
but everybody that you've ever been with, well, you're carrying their energy and you have a soul contract with them for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
And the
Oh dear.
way to, I mean, I hear what you said right there, Stacey, about Reiki.
Mhm.
And in a very similar way, it is like the cutting of cords.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about the cutting of cords? So, that's more in the NLP world, but it's more like the timeline therapy, where you're going back and you're releasing those cords,
Mhm.
and you're dissolving and clearing them. And
Mhm.
even if people don't believe in it, sometimes you might want to do it just to be safe,
Yeah, look, I actually I
and
had Reiki a
let it
couple of
go.
weeks ago for the first time in my life. So
Okay.
yeah, even an old dog can change the tricks.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
true. That's very, very true.
Yeah.
I've done
Yeah.
it
So
for
how does
myself many
it
times.
impact? How does it impact, Stacey? Like, so for example, what does it mean? What do you think the maybe the young up and coming man and woman
Mhm.
should be thinking nowadays when they're looking for their partner? Because it's so loose these days, you know. And I mean, you've got all the online space and everybody's meeting, and
Yeah.
it's all experimental,
Mhm.
and it's quite it is quite unsacred to say in the least. But what would you say to a person who is perhaps up and coming, wanting to meet the love of their life, and obviously around the male, feminine, and masculine energy?
Yeah, it's really, I would definitely ask a lot of questions. Um, I know I did when I met my boyfriend Matt. I did in the, you got to keep up with the times, right? And dating was not how it was back in the 90s or the
Never is.
2000s. So I asked, what are the, biggest questions I asked was, what are your goals? Like, what are you really looking for out of this?
Okay.
And if they say anything along the lines of, oh, I don't know, we'll see how it goes, that's a red flag, right? You gotta want somebody who's certain with what they want. Like, oh, I'm looking for a life partner, and they're
Okay.
confident in saying that, and that's also your goal as well. Then give it a shot and see how it goes. Get to know the person from there. And also, one of the biggest thing that I did for myself, and also that I'm seeing today, is people being very clear with their intentions on their dating profile. Like
Mm.
I've seen people write, I'm not here for hookups, don't talk to me. I've seen people write, I'm only here for serious relationships and things like that. So be very clear so therefore you can attract the right people that aligns with what you want.
Okay. I want to just bring up a couple of points you've said and get your opinions on this. So before you were saying you meet a new partner that you want to talk about numbers, okay, of the people that you passed. I think that's a terrible mistake because especially what happens is, well, if the number is a big imbalance, right? Instantly, that's causing to me that's putting the razor wire up between the two people in the relationship. And okay, and I look, this is where we're going to have the difference in genders here, okay? Whether we like it or not, okay, a man wants a woman to have a small number, okay?
Of
We can
course.
lie as
Yeah,
much as
yeah,
we like,
yeah.
but that's what we want, all right? So
Mm.
when a woman says, "Oh, yeah, I've slept with XYZ, a big number," it's like, "Oh, there's smoke coming from my shoes as I run away," right? Okay, it's
Whereas it's the other, isn't it? With men, they want to brag about it. Is it? It's kind
well,
of the
actually, I'm finding a
opposite.
different thing. I'm actually finding that women want the bigger number from the guy. Well, this is what they're telling me
Mm.
anyway, because they want the experience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know, and then I mean, I'd love to hear your opinion on that before you go any further.
Yeah, I feel like it's all personal preference. I've
Yep.
met people, friends, and they say they don't mind having or being with a woman who's had more partners than they do, or like you said, they prefer that the woman is as low as possible is best for them. You know what
Yep.
I mean? That's what they prefer, and I feel like it's all about personal preference at this point in today's world. I know before when I was younger and on the dating scene, numbers were more of a big thing. Like you
Okay.
said, women prefer men who had a little bit more experience, but not too much experience because that would be a huge turnoff, right? So, and it was like cut and dry. It was like almost a deal breaker for me, from my experience anyway. And now it's people. I feel like people are more loose about it.
Yeah, I mean, I
Mm.
always find that if somebody asks me my number, quite frankly, I don't answer that. Okay, I just think
Mhm.
that it's just not the territory I want to get into because I
Yeah.
don't even want to know yours, right? I just don't. I think if you're starting a relationship with somebody, let's start from where you are. Okay, let's call this ground zero, where you are.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because I mean, from the spiritual sense as well, we can wipe the slate clean anyway. And there are always ways that we can do that
Mm-hmm.
so that we can release. And we know, Stacey, you and I both know that there is a way to do that.
Yeah.
And, whatever happened to that, that sacred situation? But I wonder if it's true. I was listening to a podcast
Okay.
and I heard that if you actually are in the dating world, if you sleep with a guy or vice versa too early, it actually kills the chemistry and the future of it, because it takes away something from it, and it's more important for the man than the woman for that waiting, that sacred element. I mean, once upon a time it was sacred and it was just one person, and that was that. But really, can we wipe the slate clean? Because I'm sure there are, I mean, lots of people. Look at that woman that actually lines up with all those guys,
Oh,
and
that's
she's
just
on social
disgusting.
media,
That's just disgusting.
and it is just horrific.
Yep.
But can you imagine her energy, Stacey? What are some of the things that would happen, to a person? Like, I think I actually commented on her post one day and I said, how can you do that to your soul? Like, honestly, how can you do that to your soul?
I
What,
feel the
what's,
same way.
yeah, well, what are the implications around that?
I feel like this is where I disagree with you a bit. I feel like numbers are important in terms of wanting to, if you want to be intimate with somebody, and let's say for example they had a really big number, right? Based on what you're saying, you're exchanging not just their energy, you're exchanging the energy with all the other people they were with too, and that could be detrimental to your spirit. So for me
Yeah.
personally, I would want to know what their number is and if it aligns with what I'm okay with, because I don't want to exchange my energy and pick up on their energy if they've had over 100 partners. Like
Yeah,
that's
well, that's
scary for
yeah.
me.
So you wouldn't consider the fact that, if you met someone, and they were a complete convert, let's just say they
Okay.
turned to God, they
Okay.
turned away from their sin, like maybe that woman will one day. That's what I'm kind of wondering,
Oh
will
no.
there come a
I just
day
think she's going to walk
she
funny for the rest
will,
of her life. That's what I think. But there you go.
but
Um,
will she regret it? But what about the fact, like even if you look at the Bible, Jesus wipes our sins clean as
Mhm.
long as we acknowledge it, as long as we set that intention. And, isn't that possible? Because what's the difference between if a person has, I hear what you're saying,
Mhm.
had numbers of, say, 100 or, more,
mhm.
compared to someone that maybe had 10 or less? I mean, still, you could have had that 10, when you think about it, could have gone out and been with 1,000. So then it goes,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
what it's. So
Right. The
really,
attachment that way.
do
Yeah.
numbers actually really matter? I feel it's more about the intention
Mhm.
of releasing it and letting it go. But what's your thoughts on that?
When you say releasing and letting it go, how do you mean by that?
Okay, so it's almost like an alchemizing.
Oh,
So, for
okay. Yeah.
someone comes along and they confess their sins. They say, this was
hmm
what, I was promiscuous when I was a young person, but I want to be forgiven of that and I want to wash my soul clean, let's
Okay.
just say. And
Yeah.
so then through that alchemy, you go on that little magical journey, that we do in timeline therapy, where you go back to that space and you literally go through that whole sacred ceremony
Right.
Yeah.
of wiping, everything clean. But not only that, you're kind of you're pulling everything up from the very roots in the, from the ground. So
Okay.
you're unleashing that system. And
Mhm.
whether that is for trauma, whether that is for fear, whether that is for what we're talking about here,
Right.
once you actually dissolve, clear, and release it right there, whether you believe in God or whether you are simply, a spiritual being who is happy to kind of release it from that aspect. I mean, the intention is that you are letting it go and you're clearing every muscle and cell of your body and your nervous system.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like wiping the slate clean is the best route anyone could take if they've had multiple like a lot of partners, like over 100, for example, with the woman that you're referring to. That's the best way to do it. And I feel like once that happens, that's okay for me. If somebody has had a lot of partners and they're still holding on to those energies from their past partners and then some, I wouldn't go there because that's I gotta protect myself and my spiritual
Yeah,
energies,
I
you
get
know.
that.
But if they
Here,
wipe the slate clean and they're open, and I say, hey, listen, are you open to, wiping your slate clean and removing all those energies? Then I feel like that's fine. The most important thing is that the energy is no longer there.
Mm.
I'm going to use someone as an example here. Russell
Mhm.
Brand. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and Russell Brand has
Oh.
slept with everybody.
Oh
Okay,
gosh,
I mean,
not
no,
us.
no, just stop moving for a minute. Russell's going to get you,
I don't
right?
think any of you guys either. Yourself, Terry.
Yeah, he's been a busy boy, but these days he's changed his life completely.
Yeah.
He's married with children. He's just changed his whole outlook in life, right? And he's left that behind. So I mean, that's an extreme version, obviously, but I get your point.
Mm,
Is what I'm
mm,
saying. Like,
mm,
some people are able to cleanse. I'm personally of that thought that if the number's too big, I'm not interested. I'm out of
mm.
there, right? Um, like and another thing you mentioned earlier about red flags. I hate that term with an absolute passion. And don't get me wrong,
Didn't it trigger you?
it does totally trigger. I say
Oh.
off we go. Now I say that. About 5 minutes before the show started today, I used the exact same term. So like it's pot calling the kettle there. But never mind. I think that I was actually at an event last night. I went speed dating last night, right? So I ended a relationship 6 months ago, which I made the decision to end it. It wasn't going in the direction that I needed, right? And I wanted it to end as gently and as nicely as it could, right? So that's what we did. But so okay, so I'm out in there in the world right now, and I'm doing the speed dating. I'm enjoying dating. It's good fun. I'm not going to lie. I'm enjoying it. But okay,
But
but I was there last night and I see and I don't know what is the technical term. Is it a gaggle of women? I'm not sure.
gaggle of women.
Yeah, there was okay together, and they're all going red flag this, red flag that, red flag, red flag, green flag. Oh, and I was like, man, is
Don't
this?
they know that must be the biggest turn off though? I mean, let's face it, if there's men and women
Yep.
and women are talking that way, I don't know, what's your thoughts, Stacey? I personally feel that would be a really big, I'm going to say red flag,
Boom, boom.
for that person because this is where, if we can sort of just pull it apart here a little bit, all of these, what the constructions of what people are telling themselves, the stories, the beliefs,
Mhm.
these are all past
Yeah,
experiences. But, the fact is, if you carry them, you're going to keep attracting it.
Right.
So, this is a really big thing too, isn't it, Stacey? Because we kind of need to let go of the chip on our
we
shoulders,
do.
Mhm.
So true. Yeah.
and the only way to let go of that chip on the shoulder is to acknowledge, look, what has happened to me?
Hmm.
Who have I been attracting?
Mhm.
Where has that landed me?
Mhm.
And you'll definitely see a trail,
Hmm.
a pattern of the same old,
Yeah.
different
Yep.
person, different day, but
Sure.
same kind of emotional baggage,
Agreed.
or the feeling, the sense of that feeling.
Yep.
And in many ways we are attracting it because our subconscious is going, hey, you haven't
Uh,
learnt yet,
no, I
we got
Right.
know.
to couple more until
I'm
you learn.
I'm actually over that explanation, right? I really am. So I hear it all the time
But which explanation?
about the fact that I'm manifesting it, that I'm creating, that I'm attracting these people, right? I've been look. Poor old Stacey hasn't realised, because we haven't talked about this, but yeah, look, my I've been married a couple of times. Okay,
Two and a half to be
two and a half
exact.
times to be exact. My last marriage was to a genuine sociopath, like not making, not doing the whole thing, like
Oh
a
wow.
full try to kill me sociopath, right? Okay. So
Yeah, I can relate.
yeah, I
No.
shouldn't make I shouldn't hear there's no way I should ever give advice on relationships, right? But again, having said that, I'm aware of what to avoid. Now the problem is
See, you're aware of what to avoid,
So yeah,
true.
right?
you can give
And
advice.
where it's like, Aaron, do not think of a pink elephant.
No, I
Do
can't.
not think
Do
of a
not think.
pink elephant.
Oh dear. It's a great line I ain't gonna touch right there.
You
But
know,
I
but see what I mean though? You become hyper aware,
Mhm.
and then as a result, the universe goes, here you
yeah, but then
go.
you go and you become aware of the mistakes you make, right? And you go, okay, right, this lap, not going to do that. I'm going to deliberately look for someone who's very different to that. And it's very interesting because, quite frankly,
Mm.
the same underlying traits keep coming through. Like the packaging's different, the
Exactly.
tinsel on it and the bow is different, but the person inside has
Yeah.
many of the same.
Energetically, you're talking. See, this is what Stacey's talking about.
Right.
It's the energetics,
Okay.
isn't it, Stacey?
Mhm. You're
So I'm wondering.
focusing on what you don't want at a subconscious level, so they keep showing up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And look, when a person says, especially in our field, you haven't learnt yet, you're manifesting this and all that kind of thing, really what it's about is that there is a higher purpose that every single person, I mean, I've got someone very dear to me at the moment, right? Very close, very dear to me. And I do not like her partner. Okay. Now, I don't not like too many,
Right.
people like this, but I am so, but you cannot tell anyone what to do and what not to do. And you know something? I can see little gold nuggets of what is good about that person and what she could be learning from it, from
Okay.
this
Okay.
relationship. So
Mhm.
there are still, even when you get a really bad, toxic relationship,
Yep.
you've got to admit that there's been some higher purposes, there's been some learnings.
No doubt about it.
And, see, this is the thing. We forget to integrate. And this is the whole point because if we just keep sailing along in life and going, oh, yeah, that was really bad. I don't want to do that again. But we don't integrate. What do I mean by that? We're sort of zooming out from it.
Okay.
We're looking at it and we're sort of making a connection with what has also happened in our past and
Right.
the energetics that are connected. And
Mhm.
then sort of going back pre that and going, well, okay, how is this going to be a huge, big thing for me going forward? Because that's where you want that whole transformation. You want that revolution. You
Sure.
want that, so like what would you say for Aaron, for example? We may as well,
Oh,
bring that
lucky
benefit
me.
on. But what would you say to Aaron if right now he's sitting in this space? I'm not going to speak for him, but if you want to ask questions or if you want to share, it doesn't even have to be anything personal. It's just more the energy and the emotion. Maybe what would Stacey suggest?
Oh, look.
Share any emotions or energy, like the energy of feeling, like angry, for
Or
example,
betrayal,
or but
but
are
good old
they
fashioned betrayal, right?
huge?
Betrayal.
That's something
Yeah.
we often feel, okay? And certainly when
Right.
a relationship ends, often that's a biggie, right?
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that we're not talking about work. It could be at any level. It could be at a very simple level. It could be all the way to infidelity. There's all the variables in between. But
Right.
betrayal is betrayal, right? No matter what color you paint it. So, what are some of your thoughts there, or some actions, some things we could do to maybe work with that?
I'd be
Well,
asking questions.
that I love this question so much because I can relate to it as well. I that feeling of betrayal for it goes back to your childhood.
Okay.
Mm, yeah.
Somebody, a caretaker, someone important in your life has essentially could have betrayed you in some way when you were younger.
Right.
And then
Mm,
now, because let's say, for instance, you were 8 years old and you experienced that, you didn't have the tools back then to overcome that. So now it's just going to keep showing up in different types of relationships. And that's exactly what happened with me. It
Okay.
just kept showing up and it kept showing up. And then I took time, 2 years off from dating,
Mhm.
just to figure out what's going on here. I keep attracting the same type of people, and I don't want that anymore. What I want is X, Y, and Z. So what I
Yep.
did was I worked on myself, get to the root cause of the betrayal, and I just focus on what I want. I want someone who's going to be loyal, someone I can trust, someone I can feel safe with mentally, emotionally, physically, all of that. Um, and then once I was able to do that, boom, my boyfriend shows up. Everything I've been asking the universe for. I'm like, thank you. So it's
Very
really
good.
all about getting to the root cause of where the betrayal came from.
That's
Mm,
boom. That's
Yeah, but a little
huge.
bit of responsibility here, okay? My best
Mm.
mate when I was 11 stole my bike, okay? So,
Could
you
have been
know,
that.
huh?
It could have
But
been
what I'm getting,
that.
no, that's kind of, I'm being a smart aleck here, right? Okay. The fact is, like, I can't carry that through the rest of my life, that, somebody betrayed
Depends
me.
on how you felt when you were 11.
I love that bike. Trust
Well,
me, I
you
might
know,
not. But yeah, personal responsibility is what I'm going to go on that one. I ultimately, end of the day, the only person who's going to fix me, you, anybody is
mhm,
you. Right? Like
true.
you've got the
Yeah.
personal
Yeah. Yeah.
responsibility. You've got to be the
Yes.
person,
Yeah.
and you
exactly.
can talk about it all you like, unless you act,
Mm.
nothing
Mm.
happens, right?
Yeah.
Let's jump to one of the questions, if I may. I'm going to bring up
Yep.
a question here from Ben. Ben's all the way in the UK. Good on you, mate. It's a long way. Tell you what, aren't we very international today, eh? Now Ben has put, how does masculine and
Feminine.
feminine energy impact a man? My girlfriend says that she is in her masculine too much, and yet she is feminine. Please explain. Sorry, I put a little
That
bit on the
makes
screen.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
How would you explain, yeah, to a, layman
Yep.
terms, how would you explain, Stacey, masculine and feminine energy, especially when, you're talking to someone like Ben who wants to know what his girlfriend's on about?
Oh, don't we all
Yeah.
want to know this? Okay.
So first of all, masculine and feminine energy has nothing to do with gender, right? That we all have it within us. So the masculine energy is the one who takes action, the one who's more of the giver, the side of us that wants to execute and get things done. And
Okay.
then there's the feminine energy, which is more of the receiving energy, the calm energy, the more spiritual side of us.
Okay.
With that said, based on what Ben is saying, without fully knowing the full details, if she's leaning more towards her masculine energy, yet she's saying she's feminine,
Mhm.
my advice, unsolicited, for you, Ben,
Oh no,
is to
we're asking for it.
yeah, be in your masculine. You gotta be firm in your masculine energy and take action. If you see her doing something, you can help her by saying, "Hey, babe, I got this. I'll take care of it," so she can be strong in her feminine energy. My boyfriend does that with me because I love doing things,
There you
and
go.
he always tells me,
Yeah.
I got it. I'll take care of it. Go sit down and be and receive," and that's exactly what I do.
There's so much value in that very simple term. I
Mm.
got that. Okay.
Yeah.
So much
Just,
value. Yep.
just so much.
Safety.
Yeah.
Safety, yeah.
Yeah.
So I believe too that just the fact that you explained it as it's not about gender,
I like that.
but
Mhm.
it's about, the doing and the being, and the one that's activating things, and compared to the one that's kind of, relaxing a little bit more, and perhaps in their beingness, in their spiritual. And how important is it for us men and women to have a little bit of a balance? Because a lot of you hear it
Yeah.
in the coaching space all the time, don't you?
Hmm.
Oh, I need to balance my masculine and feminine energy. Perhaps, why is it so important, and what are some of the great ways of doing that?
For me, I would say meditate to create balance within yourself.
Okay.
That's what meditating does. It helps you feel more in tune with your own spirit, to create that self awareness, to understand where you are in terms of, am I leaning way too much into my masculine energy, or am I leaning way too much into my feminine energy, and how I can balance that out and juggle it out in my life. Right. So, going back to the example of what I was saying with my boyfriend, he saw me leaning too much into my masculine energy, and then he allowed me to feel safe to go back into my feminine energy, because my masculine energy comes from a place of survival mode sometimes, right? And so therefore I'm going to keep doing things. It goes into that hyper independence part of me that I've learned to have managed because I've learned to create more balance and have that self-awareness within myself. So now I found that middle ground of, all right, I know when to go into my masculine energy, when I'm working, and then when I'm not working, I sit and just chill and receive so my boyfriend can feel confident in his masculine energy.
I like that. So I mean, from that, and I
Mhm.
don't want to put words in your mouth, so
Yeah.
I'll use my own. But with Ben, I mean, Ben, maybe it's just time to just really punch out a little bit more masculine energy. Simple as that. Because
Yeah.
then your girlfriend can feel comfortable and feel safe to slip more into her feminine.
Mm,
Right. Right.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You come out
Own
with
it,
some,
Ben. Own it.
right?
You are the masculine.
Enjoy it, mate, while you
Yeah,
can.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Now we'll go to our last question for tonight.
yes.
So we'll jump into that. Sounds strange tonight because we're all out of our little time zone at the moment. Okay, now this is from Jeremy. Jeremy is in New Zealand. Okay,
Love this
is
question.
right. Is
Is
it
it true?
true that sexual energy is a driving force to people's success? And does this have anything to do with libido?
I like that. Have you read Napoleon Hill, Stacey?
Which book is that called?
It's
I,
Think and Grow Rich. He talks about it, and he talks about it in the terms of men coming into their major success because he was all about the men of the day.
Okay.
We
Well,
talked
it's
about this,
it's a long time ago.
Henry
Yeah.
Ford and Rockefellers and all those kind of dudes. And he said that a lot of them, like when you think of the Colonel Sanders, do you guys have KFC over in the States?
we
Hello.
do. Love it.
Where I
Home
came
office.
from.
Yeah, there we go.
So, apparently Colonel Sanders came into
Mm,
his success when he was 60 plus.
yeah.
And, Napoleon Hill's theory on that is it's because the sexual energy
Mm,
was suddenly transmuted
right.
from, in from that relationship when you're younger into the career.
Ooh, that's an interesting
Yeah,
thought.
because that's
I
Okay.
that's
yeah.
what they say. Do you want to? I bet you would know a thing or two about that,
Yeah.
Stacey.
Yes. Sexual energy is very powerful, and it depends on how you harness it, right? How you transmute it, like you said, Terry. And you can do that with any type of energy that you have within you, and put it into a certain aspect of your life, and really hone in and focus all of that sexual energy. Let's say if you haven't had sex in a while, right? You want to
You
release, you got to release that and put it out somewhere. You can put it out into building your business and your empire. And yeah, I think that's brilliant.
Is that
This
why
is a
people
great
become
question.
more successful? Do you know there's a little bit of an epidemic
right,
in the coaching space
right.
where you get some of the greatest people and they're single. They
Yeah,
don't
okay.
have partners.
Well, because they focus their efforts into their business. That's why.
Exactly,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Mhm.
because that's where their energy goes. So I
Okay.
guess that would have a lot to do with it as well, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Transmuting that into that power into your success and that driving life force, because that's what it is.
Well,
It's a life force.
Yes. I know a lot of friends who are coaches who are doing just that, and they're choosing to be celibate.
Mm, yes.
yeah, I
They're
don't agree with
choosing.
that. For so many reasons.
What are
Football
your thoughts on that? I want to know.
players don't
What a
play.
surprise.
Football players remain celibate apparently the night before a game.
Okay, there's a lot of that that's completely untrue, and I'll tell you what. Okay, I know it's very hard for you to look at this body here, Stacey, and think, geez, he used to be an athlete, but I did. I actually used to race cars for a living many years ago. So I was,
Mhm.
I was a professional rally driver. Now,
Out comes the
how
confessions.
comes conversion? Now, I would make sure, if possible, to have sex the night before,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Because, quite frankly, it cleared my mind. It actually gives you a little level of
Well,
zen.
that that
When
that
you're
is
carrying
true.
around excess testosterone, now it depends on the sport. Like if it's a
Mm,
sport that you need to be aggressive, like well, you do with rallying too, but like physically aggressive. Whereas so much of my sport was okay, the body work saw a lot, but the mental side and keeping clarity is really important. So yeah, I would generally try, if possible, to have sex the night before. I think it was a positive thing. And as far as in business, I find that when if I'm going through, a dry spell, we'll call it, I make poor decisions.
Is that right?
Yep.
So, that's where I do hear what you're saying there, but, the transmuting of that energy, whether it is true in the football, space,
Different
because I
sports.
have heard
Yeah, I
that.
have heard
Yeah,
that
me
too.
I
too.
heard that they do hold back because it's sort of like, comes out in the game. But then I hear what you just said, because the clearing of the mind, because let's face it, if you're doing any physical activity, you're clearing out the cobwebs. You're not stuck in your head,
Yep.
and you do have to be clear-minded. So, what's your thoughts on that, Stacey?
I feel like there can be other ways to go about it as well. Um, just to protect your own energy and assuming it's safe, you don't have a partner like in a relationship
Yep.
and you want to keep your numbers low, for example. I would say meditate the night before, the day before. I know men, they're not athletes, but men who do that because when they have that urge, they go in and they meditate and they focus on something else. And they tell me that they have more of self control, and that empowers them to be like feel confident in their masculine energy. Like I have control over my urges in that way.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's never a moment of more honesty and clarity in a man's mind than about 2 seconds afterwards, right? That's the honest. So, ladies, if you've got a question to ask, that's the moment. Okay? Because that whole thing, what's on your mind? Nothing could not be more true, right?
Absolutely nothing.
I
Well, there you
appreciate the honesty.
Oh, dear.
And look, I feel that there's a lot to do with the fact that where you're coming from, Stacey, is that, sex can be very much abused and
Yeah.
people can use it and abuse it in the wrong way. And I believe it's probably more about the spiritual sacredness of it as well. And everybody's got a different value system, but I believe that to a huge extent, your body is your temple. So,
Mhm.
got it.
Hmm?
Got it.
I like that.
Right.
I do. You know, yeah, we can use sex in so many different ways. We can use it in a very positive way. Some people use it in a very negative way. It's and sort of to answer Jeremy's point there, it's look, harness what you've got. I mean, ultimately, your libido and the chemicals involved are something that you can harness. You can it really depends what you're doing. It really depends what you're doing. And at the end of the day, I think that we've lost sight so much, and when we hear this so much about modern dating, all that kind of carry on, right? Like, okay, I've made like lots of jokes, and I get silly about these things, but the ultimate truth is, I wish I had met one girl when I was young. I fell in love. I had an incredible connection, and I never slept with anybody else in my life. That's what I actually genuinely want in life, right?
Mm,
Now that didn't come my way, and it doesn't come the way to most people.
yep.
Um, but yeah, like what I'm getting at is sex should be a special
Mm,
thing. It
mm,
shouldn't just be an exchange of physicality. It should be a spiritual thing, I think.
I
absolutely.
agree
100%.
100%. I don't
Yeah.
agree with what's going on in the OnlyFans realm with
Horrible.
all the girls doing those challenges. I feel like it's self harming.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
It's self
Absolutely.
harming.
And
So
maybe they'll live to, they'll, regret that one day. Who
mhm.
knows? So, Stacey, if you get off this podcast, radio show, live stream, what would be the one thing, if I didn't ask you this question, you'd think, oh my gosh, I really needed to share this on the show. I really wanted to have a person out there that's listening and needs to know this.
Mhm.
What would you what would you say?
One thing, can I say three things?
Of
Go
course you
for it.
can. Go for it.
The floor is yours.
Awesome. Yeah. So, going back to our main title here, I really want to push the envelope on women emasculating men for being vulnerable and to stop doing that. I really do because it's creating a huge imbalance, not just for men, but also for women as well. Right. And also for men, I feel like it's important that men also stop gaslighting women when they're expressing their thoughts and feelings on something that they don't feel that their partner is doing that makes them feel uncomfortable or emotionally unsafe. I think that's also very important as well. Stop calling women crazy when they're calling things out on what you're doing that doesn't make them feel okay in the relationship.
We're going to need another hour in the show because you just opened absolutely a
I
Pandora's
know,
box of
right?
an absolute 100% level of, okay, it might be overstating that, a massive level of lack of accountability in women right now. It's a massive problem.
Mhm.
I know it's unpopular. I know when I say that everybody dives at me, oh my God, he's a misogynist, da 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 da. Tell you
No,
right now, I'm a very, very lucky man. I've actually surrounded by wonderful women in my life. I've probably got more wonderful women in my life than fellas. I think women are amazing, and I think that we need to hold
I'm so
each other.
glad we're recording this.
Yes, yes. Put that on loop. But I think we have to hold each other accountable, and I think it is time that women were held accountable for their actions because what's going on right now,
Hmm.
it is absolutely no good for humanity.
no, I agree. And I absolutely agree. And I have friends who are pushing the same envelope, who are male, and what
Yep.
they're saying are falling on deaf ears.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
think that's fair at
Uh,
all.
it's it's not fair at all. But
Mhm.
can we actually organise another time to
I
catch up for a
believe
chat?
so.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I would love that. I
Ooh,
100%.
would love.
I
And
would love to
because
come back. It was so fun.
really, really feel that, I'm a woman, of
I've
course,
noticed. Yeah, yeah.
and
Telltale signs.
I don't feel that we should be given any excuse to be let off the hook about how we treat men because men have feelings too,
Mm.
Right.
and just because they were born with more testosterone doesn't mean to say that we have the right to emasculate them. But then, nobody has the right to do that anyway. But yeah, I feel that this is another big topic. We'll definitely have to come back and
Oh,
open this up on the show again.
well, now that we know Stacey's happy to be up at 6 a.m., not a problem, right? That
Not
is
a
fantastic.
problem.
Not a problem. As I say, as far as I'm concerned, that's still yesterday. I don't understand you early people. No. Thank you so much for being part of the show. We are out of here. Thank you very much for being part, of
Thank
course, of
you.
the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio.